The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent the staff, management, or owners of WGBB. From Newark, New York, this is Sports Talk 1240.
All right, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me here tonight on Sports Talk 1240. It is Sunday night, April 28th, 2019, as we roll on here in the beginning of the baseball season. We got the NFL draft out of the way. We got a lot to get into tonight, and I'm your host, Rob Cramer. Thank you for joining me tonight. And you know, it's been a while since I've been here in studio. Actually, it's nice to be back here. The last time I did a show was about a month ago on March 31st. I did a show from spring training for the down in Port St. Lucie with the Mets. I hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun taking care of that. Like I said, I'm your host, Rob Cramer. Thank you for tuning in. And you can check me out on Twitter at Cramer New York. You can check out Sports Talk 1240 on Twitter at Sports Talk 1240. Sports Talk 1240 on Facebook. You can give us a like. And check out sportstalk1240.com for everything else you need. All the hosts, all the times, everything else you need. Check it out right now. Thank you once again. And like I said, we got a lot going on right now. There's the Mets and the Yankees, who are have the early on there was a lot of up and a lot of down, but recently, aside from the injury toll, the Yankees have been rolling pretty good. They've been on a tear on their West Coast swing right now, going 6-1 of their last seven. And, we got a lot of other things going on as the Islanders continue their playoff run, down 0-2 now after a tough game today against the Carolina Hurricanes, who just keep coming at you. There's no doubt about that. That's a tough team, tough young team with a lot of talent. And also the NBA playoffs continue on. Unfortunately for Net fans, the Brooklyn Nets got knocked out in 5. They took the first game from the Sixers, but would unfortunately drop the next 4. There was a couple of games there where the Nets held into the end, but that's just a very, very superior talent team with the Philadelphia 76ers. We got the Kentucky Derby coming up this weekend, too, so we're really getting into the spring and the summer now as we roll on. So let's kick it off with baseball, though, as the New York Mets had a series against the the Milwaukee Brewers this weekend at Citi Field, as the Mets this is the first stretch of games that the Mets have had an extended period of time at home. They had a 6-game homestand earlier this year, but really outside of that, this has been the longest stretch the Mets have been at home. 16 of their first 21 was on the road, so it's good to see them get a nice little stretch at Citi Field here. As Steven Matz today went 7 innings, allowed 5 hits, 2 runs. Really threw just that one bad pitch to Mike Moustakas, who took him deep in the 7th inning to tie the game at 2. But luckily for him, the offense was up to the task, as they would put up a couple of runs for Steven Matz before he came off the till, and they got him the victory. J.D. Davis coming up with a big go-ahead pinch hit RBI single, so you gotta love that if you're a Met fan. This is a guy who Brody Van Wagner gave up a lot of talent to pry off the roster of a very good team in the Houston Astros, and they really didn't have a spot for him. He was killing it at AAA. He had 342 last year in AAA, so this is a guy who comes here with a lot of minor league fanfare that he has to live up to, and right now he's getting the job done, even though his playing time has been severely reduced since Todd Frazier came off the DL, or the IL, whatever they want to call it now. But so just to keep it going, the Mets ended up salvaging the last game of that series today as they lost the first 2. They really got killed in the first game where Jacob deGrom just didn't have it. Noah Syndergaard really didn't have it yesterday, but a late Pete Alonso home run really took him in and made it close and made you think they'd have a chance. But unfortunately, Josh Hader, the immensely talented Josh Hader, came in, struck out 5 straight Mets, and then got the last guy for a really quick and easy 6-out save. The Mets really didn't put up much of a fight at all in that one. Um, also they had like I said, Steve Matz go out there today, but also you really have to tip your cap to Seth Lugo, who the Mets said that Jerry's Familia, his job as the eighth inning man really isn't in danger, but you really have to question that. I mean, the guy threw 21 pitches, and Mickey Callaway acted like he started the game and threw 8 innings yesterday after a 21 pitch effort. A guy like Familia getting paid $10 million a year really shouldn't it shouldn't be a problem that he comes in this day, but he's been so bad, and I like that Callaway went to Seth Lugo here. Lugo had gotten up in the seventh just in case Mats couldn't get out of it, and the guy was warm. He's been pitching much better since a few spotty performances early on in the season, and Seth Lugo really struck out the side and looked unhittable in that eighth inning. And then you turned it over to Edwin Diaz, who has just been incredible since coming over from the Mariners in the offseason. Edwin Diaz struck out one batter this time today, but just yesterday and his last few performances have just been out of control, really, when you think about it. And the Mets right now, they're keeping pace. They won today. They're a game and a half out of first place. They have to contend with the Phillies, who just swept Miami, and that was a big series for them. They had Zach Eflin go the distance today down in Philadelphia. The Mets now turn to the Cincinnati Reds for the next four. You get Wheeler versus Roark tomorrow. So the Reds have really been an interesting team this year, as Yasiel Puig, coming over from the two-time defending National League champ in the Dodgers, really hasn't gotten on track yet. He's still hitting on the interstate, and the other guy that came that deal, Matt Kemp, really is he was hitting a little bit, but then he got hurt, so they don't really have him to fall back on right now. And that offense, Joey Votto included, really just hasn't found their way yet. And the Reds really need to change that. And the way the Mets pitching has been going, maybe coming to Citi Field is just the thing they need. But also maybe it's just the thing that the Mets pitching staff needs, as maybe they can go out there as really the Mets have a edge in pitching every game except for the Vargas start, where Jason Vargas is matched up against Luis Castillo, who's one of the best young pitchers in the game right now. He's really been great for the Reds, leading the league in ERA right now, just really tearing it up. And you have such a good mix of talent there with the Reds, but especially with Jeanette hurt right now, and Kemp, like I said, and the pitching has been good, but not as good as it can be. The bullpen's been spotty, so there's a mix of things going on right now with the Cincinnati Reds. They're under 500. They're looking to straighten themselves out, but the Mets really need to at least take 3 out of 4 from this team, because you really can't go into that game with Vargas and Castillo expecting the Mets to come out on top. You really can't, and it's unfortunate, but you really can't. So when you also look at that series, let's take a look at this past series first. The series against the Brewers, like we broke down before, they had a slow start to the series, but really picked up the pace after that Pete Alonso home run late in the game on Saturday night. They really got their act together after that. Pete was in a slump too. He was 0 for 11 at one point. His batting average had dropped below 300, but he really broke out on Saturday night. Like I said, he hit that big home run off Claudio. And then he had a beer-aided triple in the first inning today. If you saw that, that was pretty funny, as outfielder Ryan Braun went back to play the ball off the wall. A fan leaned over, and accidentally, it actually did look like an accident. It wasn't like he was being a jerk pouring the beer on him, but the fan's beer did spill somewhat on the outfielder, and it may have distracted him a little bit, but even the umpires went back and looked at it and still called it a triple. They said that the fan didn't touch the ball, he didn't lean over the wall, so whatever the fan did was perfectly legal. And it actually looked like the Brewers outfielders got a little bit of a laugh out of it, because Braun got a nice little beer shower early on Saturday afternoon. And as we continue to talk about Pete Alonso, this guy right now, He's got the most extra base hits. If you want to go by a player in his first 27 games in the major leagues, Pete Alonso right now is off the charts. In National League history, only two guys have more extra base hits in their first 27 games than Mr. Alonso, as Mandy Brooks, the infamous Mandy Brooks, in 1925 had 23 in his first 27 games, and Jeff Baker for the Marlins in 05-06. It was from his September call up to the beginning of the following season, had 19 extra base hits in his first 27 games. So Pete Alonso's got 18, so he ranks third uh, all time in the National League. That's pretty freaking impressive, especially when you take into account that the all time record is an American leaguer holds it, and his name is a very recognizable one. Joe DiMaggio for the New York Yankees set that record back in 1936 when he came up. So that just goes to show you how close Pete Alonso is. He's only a couple off of that, and also goes to show you how good Joe DiMaggio was, especially when he came up. Because as good as Alonso has been, I mean, and when you look at this, it's 18 extra base hits, so it's 8 doubles, 9 home runs, and 1 triple. Joe DiMaggio did more than that, 6 more than that, as a matter of fact, in his first 27 games. So that's kind of crazy if you ask me. Also, looking at the Mets, the rest of their team, you get Dominic Smith, who came off the bench today as a distraction. He's been playing that distraction role really, really well. And when he's been getting the chance to swing the bat too, he's been good. He's been drawing walks. He's been playing good defense. So all love to Dom Smith, who really has taken it to the next level. I'm so happy to see this guy. He succeeded at every level of the minor leagues. He was the MVP of the Florida State League when he was down there. He was one of the best players on the Binghamton team when he was down there. Hit 330 in AAA. So the success this guy had in the minor leagues was really unparalleled. There really aren't many players who had that kind of success at all 3 levels. And when you bring him up to the majors and they tried to give him this big power swing, and it really screwed him up, I think. And he was hitting in the 220s. This guy is not a 220 hitter, and it's good to see him showing it right now. Even if he's hitting 400 right now, so he's still hitting above his head. But I think Dom Smith has a good hitter written all over him, especially the way he goes to the opposite field. I love matching him up with Chili Davis, the former major leaguer, former Yankee, former Cub, who now he's also the former Cub hitting coach from the year they won the World Series in 2016. He was their hitting coach of that era. But I'm so happy the Mets got their hands on him. That guy was a diamond in the rough this offseason. He's one of these guys that just teaches guys to hit, go with the ball. Don't always try to put a power swing and hit a 2-run home run or a grand slam on every time you're going to take a cut. And I think it's really affected this team. They've been slumping in a lot of these offensive categories lately. I saw some of the stats over the last week or two, 10 days to 2 weeks. They really haven't been hitting in the clutch that well. They've been leaving a lot of men on base. But I think that their approach is a good one, and eventually good things will happen. Also, one other guy, J.D. Davis, who I brought up before, he's got 8 RBIs on the year. 5 of them have put the Mets ahead in their game. So he's really getting hits when it matters. Another guy who's affected J.D. Davis is Todd Frazier. And I got to say, a lot of people were worried about his impact on the roster when he came back, how he would affect certain players' playing time, and how he'd fit in. Todd Frazier's been just fine. Hit the grand slam against Philly last week. And he's had a couple of big hits the last couple of days. Actually, had an RBI single last night. Had a big RBI hit today. So I really got to tip the cap to Todd Frazier, who a lot of people kind of chalked up as not having a spot on this team, and he's really showing his value. And you gotta tip your cap to him on that. And also a quick update on Robinson Cano. If you haven't heard earlier today, he got hit by a pitch on the hand again. It's just been a ridiculous trend going on in baseball right now. As not only the Mets, but you see today, Gio Urshela for the Yankees, who's been hitting great, got hit in the hand today too, and he's knocked out. So he's getting an MRI tomorrow. So we'll see that. But Luckily, Robinson Cano got checked out, got the X-rays on his hand, and it looks like he's going to be okay. There's a little bit of swelling, so they'll further check him out tomorrow, meaning he probably won't be in the starting lineup. You'll probably see Jeff McNeil at second base, but at least it looks like he avoided big injury. For Urshela also came back clean, the X-rays, but they're gonna do an MRI tomorrow just to be safe. Same thing with Robbie Cano. So, also a quick update on Jed Lowry, who the Met fans have yet to be introduced to, as Jed Lowry played his first rehab game today, going 0 for 4, playing second and shortstop. And you really got to figure that he's at least going to need another 2.5, 3 weeks to get ready, probably more than that. And he'll probably be making his last stop at Syracuse in a couple of weeks. So that's pretty good to see out of him. Let's also turn our attention to the suddenly hot New York Yankees, who at 17-11 right now have the best record in New York. They're you got to hand it to Aaron Boone and this ragtag group of Yankees who you're not used to seeing the Yankees as the underdog, but really they've been the underdog since all these guys went down. I'm not going to run through the list of guys that got hurt before today because everybody knows them. They're household names: Judge, Stanton, etc. Now you got Sanchez back. You get these guys that are slowly getting healthy. Hopefully, in the next week or two, they'll be getting both Aaron Hicks and Giancarlo Stanton back. Those are two guys that they're gonna need big time. But they've been piecing it together. Even though Clint Frazier went down the other day, they go out and pick up Cameron Maybin, who was on base 2 or 3 times today too. He's fitting right in. He's a good defensive outfielder too, so that was a good pickup. Then you have a guy like Domingo Germán getting the job done today. He really, look, I know that the San Francisco Giants, Yankee fans aren't going to be tap dancing about sweeping the Giants because they're a bad team. But you know what? As beat up as this Yankee team is, maybe you should be doing a little tap dance because this team was not expected to rattle off the run it's been right now. Especially, I heard a lot of people talking about before this West Coast swing that this was a death wish to the Yankees. It couldn't have come at a worse time, which is probably true. But also, you know what? These guys are playing for a spot in the major leagues. They got pride too, and you go out there. This started back with Boston. You took those 2 games from Boston. Then you took 3 out of 4 from Kansas City. They took 3 out of 4 from the Angels in Anaheim, and they should have swept them actually in that series. But Tanaka, of all people, let one get away. They get the job done with the Giants today, and the Yankees really are on a run right now, especially today when you go out there and you lose DJ LeMahieu, who fouled the ball off his leg the other day. They said it really stiffened up on him. He's going to be getting checked out tomorrow, so he's out. This is a guy who's hitting over 300 too. Gio Urshela, who was hitting 351 like I mentioned before, he's going to be out. He was already replacing the injured Andujar, and he's been a revelation. He was 2 for 2 today before he got hurt. So, this is a guy who really was known for his glove before coming over from the Yankees, or to the Yankees, I'm sorry. He previously played with Cleveland. He was on one of those World Series teams, and also Toronto he played with last season. Um, I've seen some injury-riddled years with the Mets. As a Met fan, I'm accustomed to seeing a long list of injuries throughout the year, and injuries that you've never even heard of before. But in my head, 2009 and 2017 really stand out as big time injury seasons. But this is for the Yankees. It's like nothing I've really ever seen before. Um, just a lot of crazy injuries. This spat of injuries really, and it's going to be felt for a long time to come. On Mike Francesa about a week ago, right around the time of the Aaron Judge injury, you get Aaron Boone talking about how they're not expecting Aaron Judge back until July 1st or so. That's really incredible when you're thinking that because this oblique injury, which really obliques, man, obliques can take you out. I was really thinking about it too because Todd Frazier had an oblique injury for the Mets in spring training, and it really knocked him out from, I'd say, late February, probably. So give or take, say February 25th, because the spring training started real early this year. So say February 25th until about April 20th, right around there, April 22nd. That's when he came off the DL. So it's really eye-opening when you see how long an oblique injury can keep you out. Giancarlo Stanton, on the other hand, is another guy who, you really don't know. You hear that he's heading in the right direction, but really haven't heard many updates outside of that. They're still waiting on whatever happens to Andujar, who's going to be out for a long time. And right now you have guys like Gleyber Torres that's getting a lot of playing time, playing well. And how about Luke Voit? Luke Voit, 39 straight games on base streak. Really incredible. He had another 3 hits today. This is a guy who was hitting in the low 200s. He's hitting damn near 290 right now. And, it, you know, Luke Voit, it's really incredible to see how well this guy's played. I'm so happy that the Yankees went with this guy and didn't put him down in the minors in favor of Greg Bird at the beginning of the year, because Bird did have a good preseason. But I've never been a fan of Bird, and I don't know, maybe I feel like maybe I see through him more than a lot of people do. I know a lot of Yankee fans who love Greg Bird, and I'm not trying to sit here and knock Greg Bird, but I always felt that the guy, I don't know if he's ever going to live up to the billing. I mean, people were saying he was a better prospect than Aaron Judge when they were in the Yankees farm system, and now Aaron Judge is one of the best players in baseball, and Greg Bird's a 201 career hitter. So, I was when you really, really think about it, maybe Greg Bird being out of the mix the last few weeks now has allowed Voit to really relax. They bumped him up into Judge's spot in the lineup to number 2. So, his numbers have really been great. The only person in Major League Baseball that has more home runs than him since August 24th of last year, that's the date that he came up, is the reigning National League MVP, Christian Yelich, who also got hurt today. But that's when you think of a guy like Christian Yelich, who's been the hottest player in baseball, and if you were going to say, between late summer last year and now, who the best player in baseball is, a lot of people would tell you Christian Yelich. I heard when the Yankees were playing the Angels this past week, talking about Trout, a lot of people were saying that they would take Yelich over Trout right now, which, I mean, people might be getting a little crazy. Maybe if you factor in the contracts, maybe that's one thing. But, as Trout just got the $400 million plus contract in this offseason, right before the season started. But, let's just say it's a conversation now between Christian Yelich getting in that mix. I would definitely think Yelich has passed Bryce Harper at this point. And that's not a slam at Harper. Harper's a good player. He's just not, the best player in the league. That's I don't think it's really debatable at this point. But when you also look at this right now for the Yankees, as the next couple of weeks are going to unfold, there's a couple of games to circle on your calendar, because so right now the Yankees, after they're going to have 2 games in Arizona on on Tuesday and Wednesday. They're going to Arizona for those 2 games, get a couple more interleague games out of the way. It's cool seeing the Yankees in Arizona, because it always makes you flash back to that terrific 2001 World Series where those 2 teams really battled it out in a 7-game classic. So it's always cool to see the Yankees back there in that setting. It'll definitely bring back some memories, and hopefully they'll have some guys that played around there. I saw Bernie Williams was at the ballpark today out in San Francisco. They also had Dave Righetti out there today, which was pretty cool seeing him in the booth. And but so after the Yankees play that 2-game swing in Arizona, they come home for a 7-game homestand against Minnesota and Seattle. And what I was saying is, circle next weekend on your calendar, because Mother's Day weekend, the Yankees will be in Tampa Bay, and they're going to have 3 in Tampa Bay that weekend, and then they'll have 3 in the Bronx the following weekend. So 6 big games coming up against Tampa Bay the 2 weekends after this one. So a lot of big games for the Yankees. They got to make up some time, because Right now Tampa Bay is still in the lead, so the Yankees are trailing them right now and just looking to hang with them right now. And I think the Yankees, with the way these guys have been playing, and if they get one or two guys back in the next couple of weeks, that going into those Tampa Bay games, that's exactly what they'll need to put a little pep in their step and get them ahead of the game. But all right, so ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking with me here on Sports Talk 1240. I'm your host Rob Cramer. We're going to be taking our first break of the day, and when we get back on the other side, we'll be talking about the NFL draft from this past weekend. And we got a lot of stuff to get into. The Islanders we'll be talking about too. So thanks for sticking around, and we'll be right back. So when we come back, I'm just going to do my little listing in sports history, and then I'll give you the and then we'll be right into it. Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Unflippable, unflappable, unleavable. The Gusbuster is the only umbrella that won't flip inside out, rip, tear, or leak. Capable of withstanding winds over 55 miles per hour. All of our umbrellas are constructed with the finest quality materials and backed by a limited lifetime guarantee. What are you waiting for? Visit Gusbuster.com and get your
Why that lights on? All right, and thank you for joining me here tonight on Sports Talk 1240. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, and this is This Day in Sports History. This day in sports history, April 28th, 1923, the famous Wembley Stadium opens in London, England. It's the site of many NFL games over the years, and it won't be the site, actually, of the Yankees-Red Sox matchup later this year in London, but I thought it was relevant since they will be playing a game in London. All right, as we continue on, April 28, 1967, Muhammad Ali refuses induction into the U.S. Army and is therefore stripped of his heavyweight boxing title. This date, in 1985, Billy Martin is named Yankee manager for the fourth and final time. And on this date, April 28, 1988, the Baltimore Orioles lose 4-2 to Minnesota to fall to 0-21. Not only is it the worst start in Major League history, but it's the longest losing streak ever. They would beat the White Sox the next day 9-0 to snap their losing streak and improve to 1-21. It's like the opposite of The Undertaker. And April 28, 1993, with the Islanders up 4-1 on their way to clinching the series in 6 games, the Islanders' star Pierre Turgeon steals the puck from Capitals forward Dale Hunter and scores. While Turgeon was facing the crowd celebrating, Hunter'd come out of nowhere and crush him into the boards in one of the NHL's biggest cheap shots and worst cheap shots of all time. And finally, on this date, April 28, 2004, Mets star Mike Piazza hits his 351st career home run as a catcher at Dodger Stadium off former Battery mate Hideo Nomo. This home run would tie Johnny Bench for most all-time by a catcher, and Piazza would go on to hit nearly 400 all-time, which is still a record for the most all-time by a catcher. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are in the midst of the NBA and NHL playoffs. And have you won big yet? I have, because I go to betdsi.com. BetDSI is an A-plus rated sportsbook, and it's been around since 1998. In the last 20 years, they've built an impeccable reputation for great service and fast payment, combined with an excellent mobile interface so you can play, win, and get paid anywhere, anytime. If you look around the playoffs so far, there are so many upsets right now, but a lot of people be putting their money on the Golden State Warriors, and really anybody could be coming out of the West. So in the NHL and the NBA. So there's a lot of fun going on right now. And if you sign up and use my promo code Coffee100, that's COFFEE 100, BetDSI will double your money up to a $500 deposit. Don't forget, at betdsi.com you can bet on anything: MLB, NBA, NHL playoffs, boxing, UFC, the upcoming Kentucky Derby, even politics and more. Don't stand on the sideline. Just check them out at betdsi.com. That's betdsi.com, and use my promo code Coffee100 to double your bankroll today. Thanks, BetDSI. All right, and thanks for sticking around here on Sports Talk 1240, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, and like I said, you can check me out on Twitter, actually, at Cramer New York, and check out my website, actually, coffeewithcramer.com. Just find all the other stuff I'm doing. Also, check out everything on sportstalk1240.com to see what's going on this great show on WGBB. Well, this past weekend was really a great one in sports, as the NFL really finds a way to make itself relevant in the offseason, as New York and the rest of the country actually was really thrilled by the NFL draft. Took place in Nashville, Tennessee this year, where they at times had over 150,000 onlookers, which really is insane for just a bunch of college kids getting drafted. Hey, I gotta say, I watched it too. I don't know if I'd stand there in the rain with 150,000 people watching it, but hey, I'd it was, it was really a great moment. When the Jets are picking late, which hasn't happened in quite some time because they haven't made the playoffs in 8 years. But when the Jets are picking late, obviously my interest level is not quite as high. But last few years, the Jets have had a high pick, as they did this year. They had the third overall pick. Really brought a lot of intrigue. Also, the New York Giants were right up there too, picking at number 6. So we'll get to that in a minute. As believe me, I feel like this is just a little bit of therapy for me. If you allow me to go on a little bit of a sidebar, because the entire week, or weekend, I guess you could say, since the pick was made on Thursday night, um, boy, the only thing you're hearing people doing is talking about Daniel Jones, the Giants' number 6 pick, and how the Giants dropped the ball, and you really haven't heard anybody talk about Quinnen Williams, which I guess is a good thing, who the Jets picked number 3 overall. But I'm going to give some love to the Jets right now, as the Jets did not trade down, and that's a big thing. I really, really thought the Jets were going to trade down, and whether it be with the Bills to the number 9 slot, which a lot of people thought that was going to happen, or the Washington Redskins to the 15 spot, which I definitely agree they would have gotten a lot of draft capital back in return, but I think they did the right thing by selecting Quinnen Williams, staying where they're put. A lot of people predict that Quinnen Williams is the best player in the draft. People have said he's the safest player in the draft because while he may not be the biggest star in some people's eyes, he's going to be productive, and he's going to be an all-pro type player. And at nose tackle, playing the inside position on the defensive line, this is exactly what the Jets need. They also needed, an edge rusher, which a lot of people have pointed out. Also a center. But you know what? I really like the way they went. And also, if you look at the Jets' full draft, so let's just say, third overall, Jets select Quinnen Williams from Alabama, the defensive tackle, who is possibly the best player in the draft. Then In the third round, the 68th pick overall, they selected Florida defensive end Ja'Kai Polite. And this kid, a lot of people have called him a problem, like a problem child. A lot of people have, really doubted his ceiling in the NFL. Supposedly, he's a first round talent, but his draft stock really fell as he did not perform well in the one on one interviews and really didn't wow people as other people did, like Quinn Williams did. A lot of people said that Quinn Williams' personality immediately got people to really pay attention to him aside from his great play on the field and who he was playing against too. When you look at how from Alabama, man, that kid's been playing in big games his entire career. So coming to New York and big football territory, you got to hope that he's not really going to be affected by it. Also, the Jets selected former USC offensive lineman Chuma Edoga. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not really sure. Sorry, I haven't done a lot of work on him yet. But I do like the fact that he's Sam Darnold's former teammate. Darnold, I saw in an interview, was very happy that they're being reunited. This kid called it a dream that he's being picked by the team who has the quarterback that he protected for most of his career. He was selected 92nd overall in the third round, so you really got to tip your cap to the Jets on that. Also, one steal. I'm not going to go all the way to the end with the Jets, but in the fourth round, I do like the tight end they pick. A lot of people were hoping they were going to get a center or another offensive lineman, guard potentially too, but the Jets did not go that route as they selected tight end out of West Virginia, Trayvon Wesco. And Trayvon Wesco is an interesting pick because from what I've heard leading up to the draft that he's really a blocking tight end, but I also heard a lot of people say that this kid has only begun to scratch the surface of his potential and that he's mini Gronk. So take that for what you will. Comparing him to Gronk might be a bit of a stretch for a fourth round talent guy at this point, who is supposedly specializing in blocking, but we'll see. I do like the idea that they picked up a blocking tight end anyway. Maybe they used a little bit too much of a premium pick on it, but we'll figure that out when we get there. I would say overall, nice draft for the Jets. A lot of upside on a lot of these guys. They took the safe route, which I don't mind as a Jet fan. If you listen to Joe Beningo, like I do, I listen to them all the time. He really was afraid that the Jets were going to get cute. And, who knows what he means by cute, but what I pretty much got from it was that he didn't want the Jets to screw it up by trading away the pick or picking a player that they're trying to outsmart everybody, that they knew that this guy's going to be a better player, which is kind of what the Raiders did it for by, Mike Mayock and John Gruden. This is their first draft together, and it's ESPN really getting a shot at the NFL draft, which did kind of make me laugh. Two guys, former ESPN guys, who are actually participating in a draft that they used to have to break down from the outside looking in. Now they're on the inside, and let's see how they do. I think overall the Raiders had a pretty good first round, but for the number one pick, if I'm going for edge rusher like it looks like they went, I would have gone Josh Allen. But they went with a pick they think, and hey, if this guy turns out to be the next Khalil Mack, nobody's going to be complaining when they selected him. So also, there's a lot of rumors right now coming out of NFL circles. I heard Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport comment on it. Also, Ralph Vecchiano from SNY has been talking about it. But there was an article that came out on Friday afternoon from The Athletic, which is a pay service that, for sports writers and everything, where there's a lot of sports, articles on there, and it's like a regular newspaper that you have to pay for, basically, if you don't know. And it's mostly available online, and they have a lot of great writers there. And one of the articles that came out was saying that there's a major rift between Jets head coach, new head coach, who hasn't even coached a game yet, Adam Gase, and Jets general manager, who's been there since 2015, Mike McCagan. Now, if you really break it down, it seems like a lot of people have dismissed this rumor. I know Mike McCagan did on Thursday evening, actually, when this was brought up to him. I'm sorry, actually, I think the article came out on Thursday, right before the draft, because what they were talking about was how immediately following the draft, there was a possibility that McCagan could get fired, which would be shocking to me. I don't understand why you would let a general manager conduct a draft in the first place and then fire him immediately after. That would be a Knicks move, which is exactly how the Knicks got stuck with Frank Ntilikina on the end of the Phil Jackson era. And that was an error, letting him participate in that draft in the first place, because, as we know, Phil wanted to prove how smart he was and took this kid Ntilikina, who I had high hopes for, but let's just say he hasn't progressed the way everybody would like to see. And I digress on that. I could, but let's get back to the NFL draft. As I think the Jets did the right thing. I just hope that right now these rumors that are coming out from the Athletic and other places have said that the feeling was at one point that the Jets might move on from McCagan after the draft. And you'd think right now that maybe he's safe because the draft has come and gone, and it's been a day or two, a day and a half really has gone by since this all went down, since the final pick was made. The Jets made their final pick in the 6th round, but you never know. Maybe they could be waiting till for Monday morning. Maybe they could be waiting for really anything else. They would make the announcement on their own terms and their own time. So you really want to give it up for them on that. But I just hope that they stay the course and at least let McCagan, um, guide this team and get through this season, because that would be the best thing possible. Um, but I also think that the Jets really used their draft picks in a very safe manner, and I really like the guys they picked. This guy out of Florida had 17 sacks in his career in college, and I really think that they did the right thing going out and getting him, because he's a guy that could have been a first round talent, like I said. But also just to get off the Jets, I want to touch on the Giants now. Now, I've really been trying to get a good feel of not only how I feel about this pick, but how Giant fans feel about this pick. And there's a lot of anger from Giant fans. I know some fans have tried to look on the bright side, and you do appreciate that, because I'll tell you what, if I was a Giant fan, I know I wouldn't be happy either. I've seen the Jets go out and do things like this in the past, and I'm reminded of Christian Hackenberg, but that's a 2nd round pick as opposed to a 1st round pick, 6 overall. But you get what I'm saying, specifically about the quarterback position. But also, I've seen the Jets draft a kicker in the 2nd round, so I don't know. It's the 2nd round has not been kind to my team, which is why I wasn't shedding any tears that they weren't picking in the 2nd round this year. But so the Giants go out, they select Daniel Jones, 6 overall. They grabbed a lot of the headlines. That's what I was saying before. I really didn't hear many people break down this Jets pick for longer than 2 minutes. In fact, the Jets really didn't get any time on the NFL Network or ESPN or anything at all. But the Giants, really grabbed the headlines by picking Daniel Jones, number 6, out of Duke. He's a quarterback who a lot of people thought the Giants were going to be going defense, whether that be Josh Allen, whether that be really anybody else. But shocking, as they didn't pick Dwayne Haskins either, as he fell to 15, getting picked up by the Washington Redskins. And, Dave Gettleman really got some people angry by making this pick, and I think that he only flared those tempers up by when he was questioned about it after the game. Gettleman has that kind of attitude where, okay, I know more than you. You don't know more than me. I'm sitting in this chair. You're sitting in that one for a reason. Okay, you can have that attitude. Bill Belichick can have that attitude. but you really have to do something to back it up, to be quite honest. And when he sat in that chair and said to, I believe it was Sal Palantonio of ESPN, that it could be 2 or 3 years before Daniel Jones like gets into a starting position, and maybe they could bring Eli back for another two. It was just crazy. It was crazy when he said it, but it that almost certainly will not be the case. But he still said it, which is the crazy thing. So you just gotta, yeah. Who knows where the Giants are at right now? They've got a lot of people questioning every move they make. From a national perspective, national media wise, they were the laughing stock of the draft this weekend. And Daniel Jones, you can go out there and you can prove every single one of them wrong. Um, Daniel Jones doesn't have to go out there and throw 30 touchdowns this season and win Rookie of the Year for this pick to be a good one. Um, you know, could it be a mistimed pick? Could they have waited? Could they have got him at 17? Dave Gettleman says they couldn't. And if Gettleman felt that this is his guy and that they wouldn't have been able to get him later, well, then you pick him at 6. And you better be right. If he turns out to be a joke, and if he turns out to be, just somebody that is here for a couple of years and then he's gone, this guy has to be a 10 to 15-year starter for your club. For this to really, maybe 15 is pushing it, but you know what I mean. He's got to have a long career here and be the guy that the Giants can lean on for a long time to validate this number 6 overall pick. And unlike a lot of other people, I'm not saying he can't do it. The kid's got a lot of talent. He was talked about the first round for a reason. A lot of people claim he's the 5th most talented quarterback on the entire board. I don't know about that. I didn't watch him closely enough being at Duke. So, you just got to hope that Gettleman knows more than everybody else. That's what you have to hope. Overall, though, I do think on value and everything else, maybe Daniel Jones wasn't the best pick. But when you move past that, Dexter Lawrence, 17 overall, the defensive tackle out of Clemson, 340-pound kid. He's a monster of a man. You have to say that this is a good move. He's a guy that reminds you of Snacks Harrison. He can plug up that center. He's like and a lot of people say maybe he's too big for this era of football. Maybe you have to be a little smaller and more athletic. But I think it's an old school pick, old school mentality. Hey, it might work. You never know. And the other guy they got at 30, they traded the second round pick to get back into the first round and pick DeAndre Baker out of Georgia, the cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks in the draft. Some people say he's the best in the draft overall. So, for his position at cornerback. So you really have to say that if that's the case, the Giants really hit a home run. Just to throw out one other pick, I like that they picked up Julian Love, the Notre Dame cornerback, defensive back, who I think could really fit in and give them some depth at that position where they've lost a lot of talent, especially in that secondary over the last couple of years. And this guy, Julian Love, was one of the best players on a very good Notre Dame team. And you got to hope. I was hoping that he fell to the Jets, so him getting picked by the Giants, I think that's a good move for them. I really do believe that the Giants overall had a good draft. They went out and got Slayton from Auburn, who had a very good run these last couple of years with that team. They went out and got Corey Ballantyne too. Very interesting case as a he was drafted yesterday and then was involved in a shooting where his former teammate passed away. So you really have to give your your love and your condolences up to the families and everything of Corey Ballantyne, because he must be going through a very difficult time, as what was supposed to be one of the best times of his life is now marred with tragedy. And he was injured in the shooting as well too, but luckily for him in his career, they say that it's non-life threatening, it's non-career threatening, and he should be able to rehab and get back. So prayers and love to that guy, as he's going through a very tough time in his life now. But just to get back to the football side of it, I think the Giants overall had a very good draft. Um, I think that a lot of focus can be put on Daniel Jones for a lot of reasons. A lot of them are valid, a lot of them aren't. But also, just because the Giants may have reached on that pick doesn't mean that this is the worst pick of all time and that he's doomed to fail in the NFL. So keep that in mind, Giant fans. Believe me, I'm not wagging the finger at you. I get your reaction. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably be acting the same way. But as we come down the stretch here, ladies and gentlemen, we got just a little bit of time left. I do want to give some love to one of our local teams, the only team from the that's still alive for New York in the NBA or the NHL playoffs, the New York Islanders. Really tough loss today, 2-1. The goalie has just been incredible for these first two rounds, and specifically these last two games. In losing efforts, they lost 1-0 in overtime in game one. Just very tough loss to swallow. But you want to turn around and come back because they're in the Barclays Center, and really come out strong the following game. They were able to do that. For the first two periods, they were up 1-0. They looked incredible. They looked like they're flying. They looked like they had figured out a tough offense, a tough team to hold down in the Carolina Hurricanes, a young team with a lot of spunk. But it just wasn't the case as they came out and in the first minute 20 of the third period, they netted two goals and they take a 2-0 lead in the series. Both wins on the road, both wins at Barclays. As I know a lot of Islander fans are now pining for the old barn over in Nassau County, but that's not going to be happening as every game that the Islanders play in the playoffs at home for the remainder of the playoffs will be at Barclays. They only got that first round for the Nassau Coliseum, so it was nice to see them go out hot at the Coliseum, but unfortunately that is not transferred over to the Barclays as they dropped those first two. Now they're heading down to Carolina on Wednesday night for Game 3. They really need to come out flying in that one. I know Carolina's going to be jacked up. They're going to want to put the boot to the throat, just like the Islanders did. When the Islanders were up 2-0, the Islanders swept Pittsburgh in the first round. I got to say, I was shocked by that. I really was. The Pittsburgh Penguins were a, tried and true, just playoff tested team that you can throw out there and, hopefully go on another championship run if you're a Penguins fan. But that wasn't the case this year as the Islanders just snuffed them out 4 straight games, just didn't let them get off the mat. Every time they would get up, the Islanders would put them right back down. And that momentum is not, carried over. Maybe the 10-day layoff had something to do with it. I was worried about that. But from a hockey standpoint, sometimes that can help you out. It's not. I feel like it doesn't necessarily transfer over, but when you have 10 days off in any sport from one series to the next, it's going to affect the momentum. I thought it would help. Obviously, Johnny Boychuk is going to miss this whole series no matter what, but I thought it would help them get a little bit more healthy, but that health really hasn't mattered as the Islanders have struggled on the power play. Their penalty kill has been good, but two low-scoring games, two tough, low-scoring losses for the Islanders. Now you just got to hope that they pick it back up. Barry Trotz has been here and done that. A lot of the guys in this Islander team have not. So they're really going to see what this team's made of, being down 0-2 now, heading on the road, and no time like the present to get a win on Wednesday night as they continue on. Also, I want to give a quick tip of the cap to the Brooklyn Nets, like I mentioned before. They had a tough series against the 76ers. They went out in 5, but they made the playoffs, and Coach Kenny Atkinson and the leadership over there in Brooklyn really had a good year. Also, since I haven't been on since then either, great job by the Rangers. They didn't lay down the last couple of games of the regular season. They beat the Penguins heading into the playoffs to kind of help the Islanders out, get the home ice for the first round a little bit. So just and a lot of people criticize them for getting those points that don't matter and hurting their draft lottery chances. Well, it came out in the Rangers' favor as they moved up from the 6th spot to get the number 2 overall pick behind New Jersey, who won their second in 3 years, oddly enough. And so the Rangers are set up now to get star Finnish forward Capo Kakko. So his name's going to take Rangers fans a little bit to get down, but if he's coming over playing great, no one's going to care. So congratulations to the Rangers on that. And as we come down the stretch here, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you for joining me here tonight on Sports Talk 1240. I'm your host, Rob Cramer. We had a lot of fun tonight. I thank you for spending your Sunday night with me here. If you want to hear anything else, you can check me out on coffeewithkramer.com. Find out all the stuff that I got going on. You can check me out on Twitter at Cramer New York. That's Cramer NY. It's my last name. And don't forget to check out BetDSI if you're going to be putting down a bet on the Kentucky Derby this weekend or any of the playoff games. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time around. Have a great weekend.